Donald Trump is having a disastrous Friday. This may have been the worst week for him in either of his terms. He got humiliated with the blue tsunami that hit on Tuesday with the massive winds for Democrats across the country, and new data is emerging on Friday showing just how much of a destructive force Donald Trump has been in the United States. You take a look at the latest consumer confidence data from the University of Michigan. We're talking record lows published on Friday. The consumer sentiment at 50.3 is the lowest consumer sentiment since the 1970s. You look at the University of Michigan economic conditions polling, it's a record low, 52.3. The net percentage of households expecting the unemployment rate to rise over the next year leapt to 62% in November. That's the highest since 1980, historically consistent with a sharp rise in joblessness over the next few quarters. And we saw in October those massive job losses, 153,000, to add to the 950,000 job losses in the first 3 quarters. Most sectors in the United States right now are in a recessionary climate, if not a great recessionary climate, and it's being bolstered, or I would say fabricated, at the very top by Donald Trump's billionaire oligarch buds. You take a look with all of this data out there, what's Donald Trump doing? Well, earlier this morning, the Trump regime filed an emergency appeal to the First Circuit Court of Appeal to try to get the order overturned by that Rhode Island federal judge, Judge McConnell, who ordered the Trump regime to release SNAP benefits to the 42 million Americans who are starving to death right now. Trump appealed that order saying, we don't want to pay it, Judge. You can't force us to pay it. So they rushed to the First Circuit saying that we don't want to pay this money. The money exists, right? The United States gave $40 billion to Argentina. So we know that the money is there. We know all of the tax cuts Donald Trump gives to the billionaires, but he wants these 42 million Americans to starve to death because, in my view, he hates America and he wants to try to use the starvation of these 42 million Americans to further bolster his oligarchical intentions here and the hoisting up of this fascist regime of his. I mean, here's what he said last night. I mean, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Trump was asked, why aren't you going to make these SNAP payments? And he says, liquidity. We need to stay liquid. Liquidity, we need to stay liquid. You have a $1 trillion defense budget, up significantly from last year. $40 billion went to Argentina, and you're saying that you don't have liquidity to be able to make sure Americans don't starve to death from red states, blue states, purple states? Here's what he says. You can listen to him all for yourself. Let's play the clip right here.
And you know, one other thing, our country has to remain very liquid because problems, catastrophes, wars, could be anything. We have to remain liquid. We can't give everything away based on a number. Here's an example. When I was president, the number that you're talking about was a tiny fraction of what it is now. Biden went totally crazy, gave it to anybody that would ask, gave it to people that were able-bodied, had no problem. Anybody that would ask, we get the number. And it's many times the number of people are on. This wasn't meant for that.
I know, right? Absolutely despicable, despicable. Just take a look, though. I mean, when you read the brief that they filed to the First Circuit Court of Appeals so that they don't want to pay or they don't have to pay the SNAP benefits, they attack the judge. They go, this single district court judge devised his own solution. Order the U.S. Department of Agriculture to cover the SNAP shortfall by transferring billions of dollars that were appropriated for different equally critical food security programs, and to do so within just 1 business day. This unprecedented injunction makes a mockery of the separation of powers. Donald Trump is talking about a mockery of the separation of powers because a federal judge rightfully ordered that a program that could feed starving Americans actually function like it was intended to. That's what Donald Trump says is a mockery of the separation of powers. Not when he declares a trade war against the world because he wakes up emotionally shaken because he doesn't like an ad that Canada is playing, or he wants to make it the 51st state. Oh, by the way, in Canada, 66,000 jobs created in Canada. So Canada is creating jobs, while in America, Trump is losing jobs for the United States of America. 70% of consumers think that U.S. economic policy is poor right now. So what is Lori Chavez DeRemer, Donald Trump's labor secretary, who I refer to as the anti-labor secretary? Notice her use of the past tense here, because they all realize that Trump has caused a recession and a great recession. And now they're in cover-up mode to try to blame the government shutdown. They're going to be like, we were doing so good. Things were great. Consumer confidence was up. We were in a golden age. And then the government shutdown happened. And that's somehow the Democrats' fault, despite Donald Trump controlling all branches of government. That's why these people are so pathetic. They just get up there and blame and lie. And they think that we're just so stupid. Here's Donald Trump's labor secretary. You could hear her for yourself. Play this clip.
I can tell you, the president has done a wonderful job because the consumer confidence was up. The momentum this administration was on with, energy prices down, grocery prices down. The stock market has been up. Economic growth 3.8%, expected to go up even further. This Democratic shutdown has hurt the American men and women of this country who are working so hard every single day to just get ahead. And now I don't think Democrats even have taken that into consideration while they play these political games. And it's just to hurt this president and this administration and stop the momentum that we were on.
And here you see Donald Trump's national economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, also teeing up excuses for why the economy is crashing right now. He goes, it was so good. Things were great. Everything was growing. And now we're not going to have the growth that we expected. Here, play this clip.
But look where we are. It is day 38 of the government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. It is severely impacting travel. And there's a lot of ripple effects there. Today, the FAA cutting flights at 40 major airports across the country, going to 10% of cutbacks in air traffic. Meanwhile, the Senate is aiming for this test vote today on a new interim spending bill to end the stalemate. Plus 3 individual spending bills. This bill would include a new end date of sometime in January rather than November 21st, which, of course, was included in the House-passed measure. Do you have any expectation that this will pass today in the Senate? And what is your expectation of the impact on the economy of this shutdown?
Right. Well, first, the impact on the economy is far worse than we expected because it's gone on for so long. And so there are now like Goldman estimates that it's over 1% or 1.5% of GDP. I think we were thinking that we're going to have at least 3% growth in the fourth quarter. I think now we're expecting something like half that because of the harm by the Democrats' policy. And so, I think that they need to stop. They're harming Americans. They're making it so that people are worried about their holiday flights. The folks, the government workers who are 750,000 of them aren't getting their paychecks, are starting to wonder whether they should find another job.
And then Hassett says, and I think he goes, and there are now areas of the economy that are in recession. Here, play this clip.
There's holiday travel, but there's business travel. Business travel is a really big, important part of air travel. And if 10% of business travel isn't happening, then those are deals that aren't being cut and hotel rooms that aren't being filled. And so the ripple effects and then the multiplier effects of all that are really, really large. And so I think that Secretary Bessent wisely said we're starting to see pockets of the economy that look like they might be in a recession. Now, we're not in a recession because of this, but there are pockets that are really hurting. And if we go another month or so, then who knows how bad the economy could be this quarter. And we know whose fault that will be.
By the way, do y'all remember when Donald Trump was bragging about, I got this great rare earth element deal with China. It was so great. Well, we were getting rare earth elements from China under former President Biden, and American farmers were exporting 27 million metric tons of soybeans. Now, for this next year, Donald Trump's going to get 12.5 million metric tons of soybeans after China went down to 0. So this year, it's less than half, 15 million metric tons of soybeans less. And MAGA wants to be like, we did it. Dude, that's 15 million metric tons less. We can do the math, so we know that. And he's like, we got the rare earth elements back. They cut it off because of your trade war against the world, and they're making you go every year to beg them. But now we're even learning from an exclusive Reuters report that China starts to work on easing rare earth export rules, but short of Trump hope, sources say. China is now designing a new rare earth licensing regime that could speed up shipments, but it is unlikely to amount to a complete rollback of restrictions, as hoped by Washington, industry insiders say. So much more restrictions than under Biden that's going to now exist for the foreseeable future, but that's somehow supposed to be some art of the deal? Oh, seriously? Also, when you just take a look at what's happening in Washington, D.C., remember Trump's like, violence is at record lows right now. Gun violence has been eliminated. Nope. The latest charts show that basically no difference since before or after the National Guard came in. You know how Donald Trump says gas is at record lows. Nope. Today's national average is about $3. 1 year ago, it was $3.01. So basically identical right now. Really no significant changes right here. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, though, wants everybody to believe that inflation is down. He's like, look what Walmart said. Walmart said that Thanksgiving's going to be 25% cheaper this year. The Walmart list of Thanksgiving items this year contains 14 items versus 20 plus items under former President Biden. So 7 to 8 items less. And now they're using their generic Walmart Saves items versus the other brands that were used before. So this is all fabrication. And we know that Thanksgiving is not 25% cheaper. Play this clip.
The Biden administration was, especially working Americans, real wages got decimated. The inflation rate was up 22%, but the average basket of goods and services that a working family bought was up in the 30s. So we have brought down inflation. Inflation came down in April for the first time in 4 years under President Trump. So the first thing to do was to bring down the rate of change. We're going to continue to bring it down. Energy prices are down. You might have seen yesterday Walmart came out and said that the Thanksgiving meal's 25% less.
So then what does MAGA have to do? They have to have their Kim Jong-un style propaganda. So even though we all saw the photos of Donald Trump sleeping yesterday in the Oval Office, like he crashes out and falls asleep all of the time, they have like Sean Duffy show up, and Sean Duffy, the Treasury Secretary, the Transportation Secretary. Bessent's the Treasury Secretary. Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, goes, "And I gotta just tell you, Donald Trump, he's so strong. He's up at all hours." Dude, we literally see him sleeping. Like, we can see him fall asleep. Here, play this clip.
Can I just make one other point about the president?
Absolutely, yeah.
I have never seen someone work hard. I can see, so in my job, I can see there's a lot of people that come into my office every single day. Like, I'm never alone. And it's a great thing, and I got a great team, and great people. He gets that times 10.
Sure.
And 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, he's on the phone, because I'll be on the phone with him that early. So he's on the phone upstairs. He comes in at 9 o'clock, and all day long, he's moving, he's meeting, he's thinking. Then he goes into dinner, and then dinners, he's usually meeting with people. And then at night, he's still on the phone again, calling people. Or if you call him at night, he picks up. He doesn't stop. But he's a machine. And I love that I have a president that is going to work that hard to serve the American people, to make the country great, to do every moment he has, he's maximizing. It's not vacation time. It's work time. And even his kids will talk about in his businesses, he worked really hard. And he's working even harder than he did in his businesses for the American people. And I love that. And
then Fox has officially named Melania its Patriot of the Year. You can't make this up. Patriot of the Year. And finally, you have Byron Donalds, MAGA Republican, blaming everything on the Democrats in pathetic MAGA Republican fashion. Here, play this clip.
The inflation that is still hurting in some respects our economy, that was unleashed by the Democrats with no Republican votes. Healthcare policy in our country, where premiums have skyrocketed, deductibles have skyrocketed, that was passed through by Democrats with no Republican input. And now they're back saying they need even more subsidies to cover up their irresponsible healthcare policies. That was pushed through by them. Look, at some point, in my view, the next time the Democrats have the trifecta, they are going to get rid of the filibuster. And when they do that, they're going to start moving towards universal health care, which was the original design from Obamacare 15 years ago. That's really where they want to go. They are going to pack the courts. They're going to make DC a state. So my view is, let's actually get real policy solutions on health care, on energy, on regulatory reform, on real immigration visa reforms. I saw Senator Schmidt the other day called for an end to H-1B visas, and it is a scam. It does need to end. It needs to be completely ended. And there needs to be a bunch of visa overhauls. Do you think Senate Democrats are interested in visa overhauls that actually make sense for the American people and American workers? No, they don't. They're not going to do these things, Maria. We've seen enough. And that's why my position is the way it is.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.